What is recovery in a mental health context? It came from the experience of mental health survivors. Authentic recovery is peer-led and peer-developed. Recovery has been co-opted by the clinical sector to the point where it becomes whatever suits the system. This is not what we're talking about here. In Australia, the mental health standards dictate that all mental health services must be recovery focused. This is not what we're talking about here, because there's a diversity of services in Australia, and many of them are re-traumatising and hurting and excluding the people who they are supposed to protect. And that is not recovery focused at all. So what is recovery? That's the question we want to look at. I'm going to give a shout out to Pat Deegan. Pat's a consumer and a consumer psychologist from the United States, and her thought and writing on mental health recovery has been enormously influential and important. So look that up. She gave us her ideas and shared her experience with us. And thank you. Recovery work is recovering from mental illness. Historically and traditionally, survivors have been told that mental illness is degenerative, that it is permanent, that it is disabling, that they will not recover. And this has an enormous negative impact on people's prospects for recovery. The language that's used, the ideas that are used in approaching mental health have an enormous impact on people's levels of hope and the experience of hope and of recovery. Hope is critical to recovery. Recovery work must come after safety and trust. Recovery work is enormously vulnerable, difficult, hard work, and it can't be done except in a place and relationship of safety and trust. Many mental health services don't get that far. They don't get to safety. They don't get to trust. This is not what we mean by recovery. Is recovery work best done in the community? Possibly. But, when I worked in clinical sectors, in subclinical sectors in a park, and what I would say is this: you have people, you work with them. If not now, then when? Yes, they've just come out of crisis, but you're there. If not now, then when? If not here, then where? Recovery work as a worker is something that, challenges us at every stage. Are we being recovery focused? Is the work we're doing having a positive impact? Is the help we're trying to provide enabling, or is it disabling? Because as workers, whether peer or otherwise, in doing recovery work, we have to be constantly vigilant and asking, are we having a positive effect? Are we making the person stronger, or are we making the person more dependent on services? And that's a dilemma. That's an enormous dilemma. Recovery cannot be rushed or pushed. It happens in the person's own time frame. And the recovery must occur within a framework of trauma-informed safety. Safety comes first for the workers, for the service, and for the person. Safety comes first. Recovery work is enabling, not disenabling. The NDIS and Centrelink, the power structures within society require people to prove their permanent disability. This is not recovery. Mental health services require people to prove and perform mental health distress. This is not helpful. Recovery is vulnerable. It's incredibly vulnerable. A key part of many recovery frameworks is the setting of goals, of deciding on a goal, on deciding to want something. Admitting that you want something makes you vulnerable. I grew up in an abusive family environment, and I learned to hide what I wanted. And I learned to hide so that people wouldn't destroy it. My trauma history informs me and informs my understanding of how vulnerable the recovery process makes people. This is why we need safety and trust first. When you're dealing in mental health, you might as well assume the person has a trauma history. And if you're working in a mental health service, you might as well assume a re-traumatization history. Don't just ask for people for goals. Build trust and safety in the relationship first. This is something many funding models get very wrong. Trust and safety first. Trauma-informed first. So at the end of the day, do we even want recovery? Is it still a term that's helpful for us? Reply in the comments, please. Peer support can, I think, sit around recovery as a warm blanket, providing non-judgmental trust and acceptance. But it often feels as a worker as if you're doing nothing when you work in this mode. This is tough on the worker. I'm going to comment in another video more about some of the ways that I have done peer support work in subclinical services. That will be another video. Thank you for watching this one, which is just hope to be an exploration about what is recovery. What is recovery to you? Is it a helpful idea? Is it something you identify with in your own journey? It certainly is something I identify with in my own journey, and I'll talk about my journey in another video as well. Thank you for watching this. I hope it's been helpful. Thanks.